important to know history so that you can recognize the present through the lens of truth, understand its values, and understand its foundation. Vivekananda is considered a role model for youth. He said, "Is education merely about passing exams and obtaining degrees? What kind of education is it that doesn't give people courage and bravery?" He also said, as long as millions of people in the country remained mired in the darkness of hunger and illiteracy, if those who have received higher education in exchange to their tears and blood and sweat cannot spare even a moment to consider their responsibility towards these poor and exploited, I will call them traitors. Traitors. Subhash Chandra Bose was also deeply influenced by Vivekananda. This is why Subhash Chandra Bose faced family opposition while fully devoting himself to the freedom movement. Against Subhash Chandra's wishes, his parents sent him abroad to sit for and pass the ICS examination. But the flames of slavery burnt in his heart. Vidyasagar's values and his unparalleled life struggle. Vivekananda's appeal, Deshbandhu's unparalleled example of self-sacrifice, the example of self-sacrifice by Khudiram Bose and other martyrs in the Liberation War, and Sharat Chandra's fervent appeal, representing the uncompromising revolutionary cultural trend, all touches his conscience. These factors shaped Subhash Chandra's mental world during his students' day. On the one hand, he considered fully immersing himself in the freedom movement, while on the other, like most children, he wondered whether he should disobey his parents and cause them pain. He went abroad with this unresolved dilemma. While studying for the ICS, as soon as the exams results come in, he resolved that he would not serve British imperialism. He firmly decided that he would give up his ICS degree and devote himself completely to the freedom movement. The decision was not easy for Subhash Chandra Bose, as since childhood he had revered his parents as gods and had never even considered going against their opinion on any issue. This is why he had to struggle within himself while making this decision. He himself said, "In this regard, disobeying my parents in this way was against my nature. I could not even think of causing them pain. I was changing rapidly, and I was no longer the delicate child while feared my parents' displeasure. I had a new idea, one that ignited my mind. It was only on the strength of this thought that he was able to fight his parents' fear, request, and discipline, because when he was taking the decision, this question must have surely crossed his mind, that this would create a storm in the house. His parents would be sad and angry. They would feel very sorry, but still there can be no compromise on the question of principle and truth. Like every great man of every era in the world, Subhash Chandra to value the struggle against injustice, the struggle for liberation against slavery, the path of truth and justice much more than the tears and wishes of his parents. This is the reason why he was able to establish himself on a pedestal of respect as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in the history of India's freedom movement. The two incidents inspired Netaji to embrace a life of struggle. While still a teenager, inspired by his respected teacher, Beni Madhav Das, he gathered his classmates to celebrate the martyrdom day of Khudiram Bose on August 11th. This was perhaps the first celebration in India. Consequently, Khudiram's self-sacrifice event at that age left a deep impression on his conscience. Another incident about which he later recounted, a small incident in a particular place can have a lasting impact on our lives. In Kolkata, a thin beggar used to sit in front of our house, begging jelly. Every time I went out for returned home, I would catch sight of him. Whenever I looked at him or thought about him, his sad face and his tattered clothes would disturb me. In comparison, I felt guilty to find myself in such a comfortable situation. Such thoughts compelled me to rebel against the existing social order. All the great men of every era have carried the tears and pain of great revolutionaries into their hearts and marched forward on the path of struggle. Regarding this, the great leader of the proletariat, Congressman Subhash Bose, said revolutionary politics is the call of the highest heart. Netaji said, one who lacked love for a great idea can never truly become a human being. To become a human being, one needs a great idea in life, an idea that imparts knowledge of truth and instills a sense of duty for the liberation of society and civilization. We must love that idea and adopt it as our life's part. Subhash Chandra Bose said, a person who witnesses a crime and does not strive to eradicate it insults not only the humanity of the persecuted person but also his own humanity. He said, never forget that there is no crime as heinous as compromising with lies and injustice. While fighting against injustice, we have to endure everything like jail, lockup, lathi charge, bullets, harassments, etc. Despite this, Netaji had said that the person who gets injured, faces troubles, goes to jail, or is insulted while trying to end oppression and tyranny through that sacrifice and contempt achieves the glorious history of humanity. He had also said that if you want to get life, then you will have to give life if required. This means that if you want to live with dignity, then you will have to embrace death if required. Subhash Chandra Bose said, I believe that revolutionary ideas are the right ones for the liberation of millions of oppressed and suffering people in this country. I will shed every last drop of my life's blood for that idea. I may die of hunger, but I will not sell my conscience. What is the use of living by corrupting the truth? I am under a tree. I may die under a tree, but I will die with my head held high, knowing that this was necessary for India's revolutionary. If I have the truth on my side, history will surely honor it. Subhash Chandra Bose said that those who always want to float in the current of popularity may be able to gain public praise, but they cannot become immortal in history. They can never create history. In the revolutionary movement, the struggle against injustice involves facing many atrocities and hardships. Gandhians nominated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah as Subhash Bose's candidate. Everyone knows that Pattabhi Sitaramaiah was Gandhi's candidate. Furthermore, Gandhian members of the Congress Working Committee, including Nehru and Patel, without holding a working committee meeting without the permission of the president, in a completely unfair and irrelevant manner, openly declared their support or voting for Pattabhi Sitaramaiah against Subhash Chandra Bose. The media also campaigned against Netaji. However, Subhash Chandra Bose was re-elected president, defeated Gandhi, declared Pattabhi defeat as is my defeat. My congratulations to Subhash Chandra Bose, and no matter what, he is not an enemy of the country. Subhash Chandra Bose was seriously ill, and a working committee meeting was called in his absence. When Subhash Chandra Bose explained his illness and requested the meeting be postponed for a few days, they all threatened to resign in masses. Their aim was to sideline Subhash Chandra Bose at any cost. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru even openly stated Subhash Chandra Bose is solely responsible for the Congress deadlock. An example of the extent to which the Gandhians had gone against Netaji is that even regarding Netaji's serious illness at that time, they had said that nothing had actually happened to Subhash Bose. It was just his political fever. This matter was so widely published that when the doctors of the Tripura Congress Reception Committee examined him a day before the session, they found that he was indeed suffering from a high fever. They were shocked to find that he did not even have the strength to stand, yet Nehru Patel's suspicions remained unresolved. He even questioned where the doctor had personally checked the thermometer when he had to be brought in on a stretcher. In the book India's Freedom Movement, written by Communist Party General Secretary Dr. Subhash Bose, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose mentioned that the Pant resolution was passed and that Subhash Chandra Bose and his comrades were defeated. Regarding this ironic chapter of the Tripura Congress session, Netaji said with great anguish that while we were indeed defeated in Tripura, this defeat was an example of the struggle of a bedridden sick man against the influence and prestige of Congress leader Jawaharlal Nehru, provincial ministers and Mahatma Gandhi. Regarding Nehru's role, he said, "No one has personally harmed me and our ideas more than the 12 people mentioned above. Nehru has done more harm than me by openly campaigning against me. Furthermore, lamenting the betrayal of the Congress Socialist Party and the United CPI, whom he had trusted and betrayed in this hour of crisis, he said another reason for our defeat was the betrayal of the CSP leadership, and the Communist Party was also hand in glove with them at that historic ICC session in Wellington Square, Kolkata, as Subhash Chandra Bose was reading his resignation. Millions of disgruntled people outside were chanting in unison, "Long live Subhash Chandra Bose," and words of intense condemnation echoed against the Gandhians. Fearing the Gandhians didn't dare leave after the session concluded, Subhash Chandra Bose himself stood and helped everyone live with respect. He respectfully escorted the newly elected president, the Gandhian Rajendra Prasad, to his home. Rabindranath Tagore was captivated by Subhash Chandra Bose's patience, decency, enthusiasm, and determination. Despite such injustice, rudeness, and mistreatment, he sent Subhash Chandra Bose a congratulatory message bestowing upon him the title of Desnayak. But the Gandhian attack didn't stop there. The Congress Working Committee had decided not to call for any movement against the British, even though Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had called for a movement against the British. For this offence, he was suspended from the Congress membership. Rabindranath Tagore protested this incident. He urged Gandhiji to intervene in the interest of national unity. In his reply, Gandhiji told Rabindranath Tagore that he did not want to say anything against the decision of the Congress Working Committee. He would not say anything at all. He also requested Rabindranath Tagore to tell Subhash Bose that Subhash Bose should learn to follow discipline. During this time, Gandhiji told Andres that Subhash Bose is a spoiled child. That is, in Gandhi's opinion, Subhash Bose is undisciplined and unreal. British historian Michel Edwards wrote that Gandhiji used his policy of non-violence not against the British but against the Congress president himself, that is Subhash Chandra Bose, forcing him to resign. Subhash Chandra has said at that time that Gandhiji's real fear was the socialist revolution. He was surrounded by the rich and businessmen. Unconsciously driven by this capitalist outlook and self-interest, Gandhiji wholeheartedly believed that revolution and revolutionaries were dangerous for India. This is why at this Bandhu Chitranjan Das house he once said about the revolutionaries, these people are enemies of the country, traitors. Subhash Chandra immediately stood up and protested, saying, I oppose this. They are sacrificing their lives for the country's freedom. If you call them traitors because of a difference of opinion, then by the same logic, they can also call you a traitors. Gandhiji was ultimately forced to retract his statement. Subhash Chandra had once said in response to Gandhiji's question that freedom would not come through the spinning file. It would require armed struggle. This book also mentioned how Netaji was ridiculed not only by Gandhiji but even by so-called communist leaders for going abroad and attempting to liberate the country by forming the Azad Hind Fauj. Numerous attempts were made to tarnish his character, calling Netaji a fascist agent. A poet, etc., Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru had said, when Subhash Chandra Bose returned to the country, I will welcome him with a sword. And the so-called communist had said, we will welcome Subhash Chandra Bose with a garland of bullets. Subhash Bose's book clearly states that this sentiment was also expressed in a statement by the then CPI leader and current CPI leader P.T. Randeep, in which he stated that Subhash Chandra Bose, in one of his messages, described activities that incite energy and sabotage as a fight for freedom. The Communist Party will respond to Subhash Chandra Bose, a broker of Japanese imperialism, in the same way that true patriots respond to traitors and traitors. A post-mercenary Mukti Fauj, an army of murderers, thieves and robbers, attempts to loot and plunder on Indian soil. They will feel our anger and hatred. In their thinking, they are the true patriots. And while Netaji is the traitor, and his army, the Azad Hind Fauj, is an army of murders, thieves and robbers. Not content with this, they even went so far as to publish a cartoon in their party's mouthpiece depicting a dog with a chain around its neck. The dog's face was Netaji and the chain was held by the then Prime Minister of Japan, Tojo. Driven by a deep sense of patriotism, Netaji wanted to use Japan against British imperialism, just as Burma's nationalist leader Aung San Suu Kyi and Indonesia's Sukarno had done. He later turned against Japan, and if necessary, Netaji would have stood against Japan as well. Whether this strategy was right or wrong is open to question and debate. But can he be labeled a Japanese agent? Was his lifelong struggle aimed at establishing Japanese imperialist rule in India? In those days, Netaji was branded a Japanese agent, a traitor and a traitor. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, known as the Frontier Gandhi and the most revered at the time for having spent the longest time in prison under the British, paid his respects to Netaji during his visit to India, saying that he would only like to extend his heartfelt congratulations to one leader, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, for his unconditional love for the poor. Only Netaji could eradicate the communal sentiments that prevailed in India and Pakistan at the time of partition. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad were leaders who opposed to country's partition. In August 1945, Subhash Chandra Bose died in a plane crash. His family listened to the news on the radio. The newscaster announced that Subhash Chandra Bose, the traitor of India, had died in a plane crash in Tyre. A man who had given everything for the country was labeled a traitor even after his death. What greater example of sacrifice could a country have than this? The word traitor was used for him not only by the British but also by India's leaders of the time. This word is even more deadly and poisonous than the plane crash itself. Anuj Dhar, author of the book India's Biggest Cover-Up on Subhash Chandra Bose's death, says that he had demanded that the Prime Minister office provide him with the documents that investigated Subhash Chandra Bose's presence in the Soviet Union. Anuj explains the Prime Minister's office refused to grant it, saying it would adversely affect our relations with foreign powers. Dhar says that foreign relations are just an excuse. The real earthquake will come within this country. His statement was true to the extent that with the mere attainment of independence in 1947, wasn't the separation of India and Pakistan a natural disaster?